It's another beautiful day for some big four analysis going over Solana, XRP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, not necessarily in that order. So we'll actually jump over here to Solana to start this one off. And of course, this is coming one day after the big event, the big crypto summit event, which, surprise, surprise, it seems to be a sell the news event. Maybe not for the long-term trade. Like I said yesterday, I think that long-term, all of these announcements have been massively positive. But in the short term, event psychology plays out yet again. Anyways, looking at Solana, it is still back down around these same lows that we've been looking at since 2024 September. In fact, tested many times during 2024. So I am hesitant to say that Solana is going to fully break down from where it's at right now without a bounce first. But I did want to highlight the fact that, at least in the way that I look at things, just about any bounce in Solana, I look at as another sell the news event. No, what I mean by that is that the higher term timeframes are really starting to change around here. One, we can see that there is actually a death cross on the daily time frame between the simple moving averages that is very likely inbound. If I'm just going to estimate this one, this is going to happen sometime around the 3rd to 4th week of March, assuming that Solana does not rally back up and hold above 185. So in the meantime, does Solana get more bounces off this region? Probably. How high do they go? I don't fucking know. But I would be looking at these as as opportunities to get out, because the higher term timeframes really have set in here. And once that death cross does happen, there's probably going to be a big rally, probably somewhere around those moving averages. Let's call it like 175 to 185 region. But that should be a sell. At least in terms of the long-term trend for Solana. Again, there will be rallies. Of course, nothing moves in a straight fucking line, and also doesn't move in the same day as well. But yeah, anyways, as we look at the daily right here, I mean, to be fair, it is under pressure as of right now. While I don't think that this one's going to break down to significantly new lows from where it's currently at right now, it very likely does try around the current lows again, which we can see that daily stochastic momentum is showing downside freshly in the bearish control zone. As long as Solana is below 151, which it is healthily below as of right now. And, what could that essentially imply? Let me actually just go over the sort of daily range here. Maybe another retest of this low. But ultimately, I suspect that the range for March is going to be between these two major pivots right here, the highs from last Sunday versus the lows of February, actually. So, likely another test down here. I don't think it's going to break down on this particular move. I do think that there's another bounce in it, but after that bounce is when we probably do see that death cross happen. And, long term, going to look pretty ugly. And by the way, the death cross moving averages here are going to be that light blue. That's a 50 simple moving average. And then the white moving average is a 200 simple. So those are starting to converge at each other in a way that we haven't seen in quite some time. Anyways, moving on from there, I did want to also go over the higher term timeframes, which are still showing downside momentum here, which with the weekly pointed down as long as it's closing below $200. Healthily below $200 as well right now. The bi-weekly time frame also headed down from an even higher pivot at 230, and the monthly time frame also headed down, losing the bullish control zone as long as this thing's below 250. So all of those building on top of each other, to me, that is a long-term bearish signal, and I would expect Solana at some point this year. Maybe it takes a few months, maybe it takes a whole year. I don't fucking know, but somewhere down around here, anywhere between 85 to $100. And there should be a big bounce attempt from those regions. But, when we see all higher term timeframes align in terms of momentum, I'm not going to be bullish on something like that looks like that. Moving on to Ethereum here, we can see that Ethereum is once again at the bottom side of the same range that has been operated in since January of 2024. So over a year now. And similar to Solana, I don't think it's going to break down from where it's exactly at right now. I do think that this one has another bounce off of the same level that we've seen, pretty nice bounces from, to be fair, for the past year. But, long term, it's becoming harder and harder to love, at least in my opinion. It doesn't mean that I can't switch around to loving it, but the criteria to switching around to, once again, being a lover of Ethereum and Mr. That communist motherfucker that woke soy boy. Kidding. Okay. Just a joke on the internet. Anyways, it's where was I? Yeah, I do think that there is a bounce, but ultimately, as long as the monthly momentum pivot is failing, which it has been failing consistently each and every fucking month, despite being so close every fucking time, but missing it by at least, some margin since April of 2024, I can't be bullish on something like that. We can see that the monthly is going to be headed down this month as well, as long as, I almost said Solana, but Ethereum is below 2833. It's a long month left to go, of course. And if it does break down, I don't think it's happening on this move right here. I'm more inclined to say that this one does bounce from here. And we should probably give it, a bit of a chance, because it would, not that it's impossible, but it would just be mean to the Ethereum believers out there if this thing, didn't at some point try to make new highs. But fair enough, again, similar to Solana, I do think that this one can easily retest around the current low from early March. Maybe not exactly to the low, but somewhere around there, that's fine. And then very likely a bounce. Again, this thing's been beat up a lot. Yes, daily momentum is still to the downside, but it wouldn't take too much to flip it back up above 2200. So, what does it end up looking like in the more short and medium term? Maybe something like this, then come back to it after that. Maybe on a bounce, it does reclaim that critical number, which for this month is going to be 2800. But until then, I'm going to be treating this one as very cautious. Moving on to XRP. XRP, we were also looking at over the past few weeks. Definitely stronger than Solana and Ethereum, and even in some cases Bitcoin as well. In fact, I'd actually still say that it's probably a little bit stronger than Bitcoin, just because this thing is a lot closer to its prior all-time high. But starting to flip around here as well. We do see that XRP has a lower high in place, and we can see that momentum is freshly pointed down alongside that lower high, rejecting getting into the bullish control zone at the same time. It remains with downside pressure as long as XRP is below 257. So I do suspect that XRP, similar to Solana, similar to Ethereum, is going to be testing around these lows again, somewhere close to there. Doesn't need to be exactly, at that exact level, but somewhere around, let's just call it low $2, anywhere between maybe like 220 on the more generous side versus, about $2 on the not as generous side. But do I think it's going to break down from there? It would really require Bitcoin to break down, which isn't impossible here. I mean, we do see the same sort of concerns on the higher term timeframes with XRP, as I outlaid with Solana, and actually Ethereum as well. Ethereum has the same issues. I believe the biweekly is also fresh. Yeah, it is also healthily down. But XRP here, we can see 5-day time frame is going to be showing downside momentum as long as XRP is below 262. It's quite below there right now, so I highly doubt that this one does cross up. The 10-day time frame also going to be showing downside as long as XRP is below about $3. The weekly also going to be heavy down here, losing the bullish control zone as long as XRP is below 3. 2-week time frame also going to be going down as long as XRP is below 270, and then the monthly is up for right now as long as it's above 170. So it is still technically in the more stronger of positions. But in the short term, like I said, does it retest around these lows, then try for another bounce? I think that would be the more optimistic view. What I feel a little more comfortable with on XRP compared to the other ones is that I do think it will at least hold this range for, hopefully all of March, if not most of March. That being between, again, $2 to the downside versus your highs from early March, which was about $2.95 or so, almost $3. So yeah, as of right now, though, I do favor short-term downside, and then probably another bounce somewhere around here. That's what we stick with on this one. Anyways, moving on to Bitcoin. The Bitcoins, I do want to highlight that the daily for CME has closed as a confirmation of trend. What trend am I speaking about? Well, you have a high, you have a low, you have a lower high, you have another lower, you have a higher low, then a lower high right here as well. So, I do still think that Bitcoin likely has a little bit more downside here. I don't think it's going to end up like wherever the low is for Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is bullish, I don't think it's going to be too far off of the current low that we saw in, on the end of the day, end of February, last Friday, no, a couple of Fridays ago. But well, for some people that might be a little bit lower than what they expect. But in my opinion, if you're more long-term, and when we look at this thing, years on in advance, I don't think you're going to be looking at whatever the low is as much lower than what it currently is already at about 77 or 78,000 bucks. Does it come all the way down to 70? That's possible, sure, but in the greater scheme of things, I don't think that would be too far off. So, well, I do think that Bitcoin has another downside move, probably officially tests the 200 simple here on CME, which is basically the current low. I would be looking for the bounce there as well. But if things do fall through, then this is where I'll be looking towards. Wherever the 377 is, it's crawling up right now. It should be at 70,000 bucks, I'd imagine, in the next week. So, if things do come down around there, and if I'm still long-term bullish or just don't think that the cycle is over, that would be, in my opinion, quite a good area. Of course, I still want to see a few things for Bitcoin, which have not happened, to make me more comfortable with perhaps long-term long positions. One of them being the hash ribbons indicator, as we went over in yesterday's video. It's still not there. It's still not going to be there, at least for most of March. I think the projected buy date for that one, by the way, is, as of right now, on the same day as the next FOMC. Correct me if I'm wrong though, but it's somewhere around there, the third week of March here. Anyways, yes, and then last thing, because a lot of people have been asked about this as well, just updating on the quantum wave bands. This is the strategy that is pretty much, done for you. It's a scalping strategy for Bitcoin and a few other of the altcoins as well, but I would primarily focus on Bitcoin, to be honest. This one has been chugging along, and, it did take a nice loss. Of course, when the big drop off did happen, we can see a nice steep decline there in the P&L curve, but it's regained pretty much almost all of that very, very quickly here as well. So just showing you some of the trades that it's taken. It's actually in one right now. I don't know if I feel great about this one. I don't think this one's going to be a big winner, if it's a winner at all, but it has actually had, a pretty decent last couple of weeks where it has been scalping these relatively quick moves. And I would say it's not perfect. It's not intended to be perfect. These are, all strategies are going to be imperfect in some way, but it gives you these sort of bumper. I want to relate it to like bumper rails in bowling, and it keeps you safe. It keeps you from getting wrecked, most importantly, by giving you, obvious exit signals, whether that be because your stop loss is being hit or because, you actually made some profit, which would also be better. But again, the long term with these things is the goal here. What do I mean by that? Look, if you're going to be trading any sort of strategy, especially automated strategies, you're in it for the long term. You're playing long-term statistics, just in the same way that we were saying over this past week, the Bitcoin strategic reserve announcement, and then also the crypto summit. These are, typically sell the news type of events, not because, it doesn't matter or anything like that. Of course, long-term, it does. It's a big deal, but in the short term, event psychology is the one thing that you can be, very lenient on, or you can lean on that a lot, because human psychology is just not fucking changed. It's not changed, in hundreds of thousands of years. So, the same sort of thing typically happens. Again, I would challenge anyone who disagrees with that to show me an instance where that was not the case. And even if you are able to show me an instance where that is not the case, which I'm sure there are in the past, of course, that is second to the fact that almost always, it is very rare that you see that, and almost always it is a sell the news event. So again, it's a probabilistic statement. At some point, I will be wrong with that, obviously, just like with any probabilistic statement. But I'm more interested in the long term and being more right over the long term rather than any specific instance, because that is impossible to do. There is a degree of randomness here. Anyways, that's where I'll be signing off on this particular video. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.